Hello everyone, this is Nikita Uppalpati. So I hope everyone understood the chapter 1. So here we go into the chapter 2, the biological classification. So this will be of two parts, part 1 and part 2. So please don't skip the part 1 and watch part 2. Do watch it in a sequence and please do understand. So concentrate now. Thank you. So hello everyone, I hope you guys understood the biological classification part 1. So here you go with the part 2. So please concentrate. Yes, here comes the another kingdom, Protista. In kingdom Protista, all unicellular eukaryotes are there, and these are primarily aquatic in nature, and it all has a well-defined nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. And some have flagella and some have cilia. So they reproduce asexually by cell fusion. You know what is meant by sexually and asexually, and sexually by zygote formation. So in humans also it's all about by zygote formation, and asexually is by a single one that is within themselves by cell fusion. So Protista includes chrysophyte, dinoflagellate, euglenoid, slime mold and protozoans. So here comes the first one, the chrysophytes. They includes the group of diatoms and golden algae. Golden algae are also called as desmids. So these chrysophytes are found in the fresh water as well as in the marine environments. So they are microscopic, and microscopic in the sense they are very small in structure so that we can't see with our naked eye, and they float passively in the water currents. So water currents in the sense some seas and etc. So they float on the water, and mostly they are photosynthetic. What does mean by photosynthetic? Photosynthetic is nothing but which prepares its own food through the sunlight. So the chrysophytes are mostly photosynthetic, and in diatoms the cell walls form two thin overlapping shells which fit together as a soap box. You know about a soap box, right? So it has the outer one and the inner one. So we have two boxes, out and in. So in diatoms, the cell walls also form two thin overlapping shells, like a soap box. You know how does a soap box look like? So these diatom cell walls also form two thin overlapping shells which do together like that. And the walls are embedded with silica and thus indestructible. What does mean by indestructible? Means it's unbreakable. These diatoms have left behind large amount of cell wall deposits in their habitat, and this accumulation over billions of years is referred to as diatomaceous earth, in the sense where we live. Being gritty in the sense jiguru. Yes, being gritty, this soil is used in polishing, filtration of oils and syrups. The diatoms are chief producers in oceans, and the diatoms are divided into two types based on the structural symmetry. So the first one is central diatoms and the second one is a penile. The central diatoms are radially symmetrical, whereas the penniles are bilaterally symmetrical, and they reproduce asexually by binary fission and sexually by formation of gametes. The oxospores are formed as a result of sexual reproduction, and they are rejuvenatory spores. Rejuvenatory in the sense they can again form the another generation. So the point in this chrysophytes you have to note is they are fresh and marine, they are photosynthetic, and cell wall is also present in them. So these are the important 3 points which you can differ from other things. So here comes the dinoflagellates. These are mostly marine and photosynthetic, and they appear in different colors like yellow, green, brown, blue, red, and it depends on the main pigments present in those cells. And this cell wall has stiff cellulose plates on outer surface. So most of them have two flagella, in the sense one lies longitudinally and other transversely in between a furrow between the wall plates. And here the flagella produces spinning movements, so called whirling whips. Spinning movement in the sense, you know what spinning means. So with the help of this flagella, it can do spinning movements, so they are also called as a whirling whip. And here the nucleus has condensed chromosomes even in interphase and don't have histones. So this phase is known as mesokaryon phase. And some marine dinoflagellates like Noctiluca show bioluminescence. Bioluminescence in the sense, at the night time it gets some glow, like light flies. You know about light flies, right? At night time they'll give a green color. In some movies also you'll be seeing like that. And that is nothing but the bioluminescence. And here the red dinoflagellates undergo such rapid multiplication that they make the sea appear red. Toxins released by such large numbers may even kill other marine animals such as fishes. So for fishes which live in water, these toxins may get, while they eat something, these toxins may get affected. When they eat these toxins, they'll get affected. So in such a way, these dinoflagellates are present. So dinoflagellates are mostly marine and they are photosynthetic and the cell wall is present. So the difference between this chrysophyte and dinoflagellate is nothing but the chrysophyte they are found in freshwater also, whereas the dinoflagellates they are found only in marine. Once again I'll repeat it. The chrysophyte is present in both freshwater and marine, whereas the dinoflagellate is present only in the marine. And other differences are same for both. And here next comes the euglenoid. The euglenoids, a majority of them are freshwater organisms found in stagnant water. What does the stagnant water mean? Stagnant water, the most stored water, means which do not flow, which stay in a container like some drums, etc., will keep for so many days, right? And that is known as a stagnant water. So instead of cell wall, they have a protein-rich layer called pellicle, which makes their body flexible. And they have two flagella, one short and a one long one. Wait, let me show you this. Yes, here you see, this is euglena. And they have two flagella. This is a long flagella and this is a short flagella. And this one is an example for that. So instead of cell wall, they don't have a cell wall, see? Can you observe that? Yes. So instead of that cell wall, they have a protein-rich layer called pellicle. And this outer lining is known as a pellicle layer. So this is all about euglena. And let me go back. Yes. And in this, it consists of photosynthetic stigma, photosensitive stigma or eye spot on membrane of the reservoir. And the anterior part of the cell bears an invagination consisting of cytosome, that is called cell mouth, and cytopharynx, that is called gullet and reservoir. Though they are photosynthetic in nature of sunlight, when deprived of sunlight they behave like heterotrophs by predating on other smaller organisms. So some euglenoids might don't get enough sunlight for doing photosynthesis. So when that sunlight is not enough for them, they behave like heterotroph. Heterotroph in the sense feeding on another organism. So by predating on other small organisms, this euglenoid lives. And the pigments of euglenoids are identical to those present in higher plants. So this is the example euglena which I showed you before. The reproduction is by longitudinal binary fission and the Pamela stage found in euglena. So how do you think does it reproduce? It longitudinal binary fission means right from this cytosome, from this mouth, from this gullet, from this reservoir, it gets divided into two parts, into two daughter progeny. In that way it reproduces. Yes, and here comes the next one, slime mold. They are saprophytic protists. These slime molds are saprophytic protists. And here I've sorry that I forgot to mention you, this chrysophytes live in both fresh and marine, and whereas dinoflagellates live in only marine, and these euglenoids live in only fresh water and not in marine water. And these are also photosynthetic and the cell wall is absent in these euglenoids. So the difference between these three is euglenoids don't have cell wall and the chrysophytes live in both fresh and marine water. So please note it down if you get confused. And now the slime molds, they are saprophytic protists as I said before. And the multinucleated mass of protoplasm is surrounded by a plasma membrane. The body moves along decaying twigs and leaves engulfing organic matter, and this is what we call them as a decomposer. I think you know what does a decomposer mean. Yes. In favorable conditions, they form aggregation called plasmodium, which may grow and spread over several feet. But in unfavorable conditions, the plasmodium differentiates and form fruiting bodies bearing spores at their tips. The spores possess true walls, and they are extremely resistant and survive for many years even under adverse conditions. Adverse conditions in the sense, those are the conditions which are not suffering, like which are not allowing them to survive in that condition, and those conditions are called as adverse conditions. And the spores are dispersed by air currents. You know what does a air current mean? Yes, the air currents is nothing but when the spores are so small, as they are so very light in weight, they can be carried in the air, through the air, from one place to another place, and that's nothing but the spores dispersed by air currents. And then here comes the protozoan. All protozoans are heterotrophs and live as predators or parasites. They are primitive relatives of animals. As it was a related thing, we can tell. There are four major groups of these protozoans, that is amoeboid protozoan, flagellated protozoan, ciliated protozoan and sporozoan. So here comes the first one, amoeboid protozoan. They live in freshwater, seawater or moist soil. They move and capture their prey by pseudopodia. So what does the pseudopodia mean? It was a false feet. You know how does amoeboid look like this, right? Like this in different shapes. And yes, those outerings of that amoeba is nothing but the pseudopodia. Those are officially called as legs, but they are not the legs of that amoeba. So they are called as a false feet. False in the sense pseudo. False is nothing but the pseudo. Pseudo is false, and the podia is nothing but the feet. So pseudopodia is called as a false feet. So remember this point. And the marine forms have silica shells on their surface. Flagellated protozoans, free living or parasitic, in the sense they prepare their own food or they might be dependent on the other ones for the food. So in this flagella is present. So in amoeboid protozoans there is no flagella, no cilia, no nothing. It just moves only with the help of that pseudopodia, in the sense of false feet. And in flagellated protozoans, as they have flagella, they can move with that flagella in a whirling way or in some other ways. And the parasitic forms cause diseases such as sleeping sickness, and the example for that is trypanosoma. And the ciliated protozoans, as I said, in flagellated protozoans there are flagella, in ciliated protozoans there are cilia. And these are the aquatic and move actively due to cilia. As I said, cilia is present in them. They are aquatic and move actively due to cilia. Aquatic in the sense they live in the water. So the cavity is present that opens to the outside of a cell surface. Coordinated movement of rows of cilia causes the water ladle with food to be steered into the gullet. So by moving with cilia, it pulls the food into the mouth so that the food steers into the gullet. So the example for this is paramecium. So let me show you the paramecium diagram. Yes, it's here. The small cilia present around it. Can you find that? Yes. The small lines is known as cilia, and from that, through these gullets, it will take the food inside. And this is the nucleus. These are the small food droplets, and this is the cytochrome. And here comes the sporozoans. These sporozoans include organisms that have an infectious spore-like stage in their life cycle. The most notorious one is Plasmodium, which causes malaria in humans. Yes, you know about Plasmodium, right? Which causes malaria. It comes through female Culex mosquito. And yes, this Plasmodium will cause malaria, and it have different stages where it will infect from blood to the another body parts. So now this is a dinoflagellate. So as I said, the cell wall is made up of stiff cellulose plate, and so it was so stiff, as you can see that, right? And I said that have two flagella and one was longitudinal. You can see this longitudinal one, right? Yes, this is one flagella, and one is in transverse, means here. It was in the furrow between them. So this is one type of dinoflagellate. And this, here comes the euglenoid example, as I told you before. And this is Paramecia, it is a protozoan example. And here comes the slime mold. As I told you, the cell wall is absent. See, it doesn't have a cell wall. You can observe that. See, you can observe that. And it also have a pseudopodia. And it also has spores. Do you observe that? Yes, the spores. And this is Paramecia, as I said you before. Yes, and here comes the kingdom fungi. So actually, the fungi is a unique kingdom of heterotrophic organisms. What does heterotrophic means? Which feeds on other organisms, right? Yes. And they show great diversity in morphology of habitat. So actually, the bread mold, when you store a bread, there will be some whitish layer appearing on it, right? Yes, that is nothing but the fungi. And the rot in an orange means when you keep an orange for so many days, it will taste like some variety taste, right? And that one is due to this fungi. And we'll eat mushrooms. Someone are very aware about mushrooms. Yes, and those mushrooms we eat are fungi, and that is edible fungi. We can eat that. That's not a big problem. And the white spots on mustard leaves. So when you observe some mustard leaves, we can see some white spots on them, and that is due to this parasitic fungi. And some unicellular fungi like yeast are used to make bread and beer. Wheat rust is caused by Puccinia. Some are source of antibiotics, example penicillium. Where some fungi, all fungi are not harmful, whereas some fungi are used as source of antibiotics, that is penicillium. The first antibiotic discovered is this for sugar. We can say it as an insulin. So grow in warm and humid places. So this fungi grows in warm and humid places. The fungi are filamentous except the yeast. So actually the fungi are the filamentous ones, and the yeast was the exception of this. And you have to remember this point very well, as they will ask with some confused questions, right? So they might ask different types of fungi with yeast in it, and find the odd one out like that. So when you can't find that, so if you remember this point, you can find it, right? Okay, the fungi are actually filamentous except the yeast. So the bodies consist of long, slender, thread-like structure called hyphae. Means it will be present like this in zigzag manner. Yes, and a network of hyphae is called as mycelium. So let me show you. So see here. This is hyphae. And when you come to mycelium, it will be present like this. A dot in middle, and then a group of hyphae like this. Yes, and this is mycelium. And some hyphae which I showed here, these some hyphae are continuous tubes filled with multinucleated cytoplasm called cenocytic phase. They are filled with the multinucleated cytoplasm. Actually cytoplasm was present, but actually in some organisms the cytoplasm consists of a uninucleate. But in this hyphae, some hyphae are continuous tubes filled with the many nucleus, that is nothing but multinucleated cytoplasm, and that phase is known as cenocytic phase. And others have septae or cross walls in their hyphae. So cell walls are composed of chitin and polysaccharides. The reserve food material is glycogen and the oil. So most of them are heterotrophic and absorb soluble organic matter from dead substances, so called saprophytes. So I know you are aware about this saprophytes, right? so no need to explain. These dependent on plants and animals are called parasites. So here, not all are saprophytes, not all are parasites. So some are saprophytes and some are parasites. And they can also live as symbionts in association with algae as lichens and with roots of higher plants as mycorrhiza. And the reproduction, yes, the reproduction in this fungi can be taken place by vegetative means. Vegetative means are fragmentation, fission and budding. And the asexual reproduction is by spores called conidia, sporangiospore or zoospore, whereas the sexual reproduction is by oospore, ascospore and basidiospore. The various spores are produced in distinct structures called fruiting bodies, and the sexual cycle follows 3 steps: the plasmogamy, the karyogamy and the meiosis. Here comes the plasmogamy. What does a plasmogamy means? The fusion of the protoplasms between 2 motile or non-motile gametes is called a plasmogamy. The name itself includes the protoplasm, plasmogamy, plasmo in the sense protoplasm. So that is nothing but the fusion of the protoplasm between either 2 motile or 2 non-motile, but never between a motile and a non-motile. So please note this, either 2 motile or 2 non-motile, but never between a motile and a non-motile gametes, and this is known as a plasmogamy. So next here comes to the karyogamy. What does the karyogamy means? The fusion of 2 nuclei is known as a karyogamy. And the meiosis. The meiosis in zygote resulting in haploid spores. Means haploid in the sense single spore. So here comes. In some fungi, fusion of 2 haploid cells immediately results in a diploid cell. So when fungus reproduce sexually, the 2 haploid hyphae of compatible mating types come together and fuse. So when they fuse, in some fungi, the fusion of these 2 haploid cells immediately results to the diploid cell. So here, in other fungi, an intervening dekaryotic stage occurs, and that condition is called as dikaryon, and that phase is known as dikaryophase. And later, the parental nuclei fuses and the cells become diploid, whereas the fungi form fruiting bodies in which the reduction division occurs, leading to the formation of haploid spores. Haploid spores again they are formed. So the morphology of this mycelium, mode of spore formation and the fruiting bodies form the basis for the division of kingdom into various classes. So in those various classes we can include Phycomycetes, Ascomycetes, Basidiomycetes and Deuteromycetes. So here comes the first one, the Phycomycetes. They are found in the aquatic habitats and on decaying wood in moist and damp places or as obligate parasites. So the mycelium here is aseptate and cenocytate. So I said you before, aseptate and septate. Aseptate is nothing but which are not formed in a group, and septate they are in a group, and cenocytic phase as I told you before. And the asexual reproduction is by zoospores. Zoospores are motile or aplanospores. Aplanospores are non-motile. So these spores are endogenously produced in sporangium. A zygospore is formed by fusion of 2 gametes. These gametes similar in morphology or dissimilar. These gametes might be similar, might not be similar. So the example for this is mucor and the rhizopus. Rhizopus is nothing but the bread mold, and the albugo, the parasitic fungi on mustard. And here comes the second one, the Ascomycetes. These Ascomycetes are commonly known as sac fungi. So mostly multicellular. These are mostly multicellular, and the example is penicillium, and rarely unicellular example is yeast. So multicellular ekku untayi. So that multicellular one's example is penicillium, and we'll find very rare unicellular ones, and that is yeast. Yeast is also called as Saccharomyces. They are saprophytic, decomposes, parasitic or coprophilous. And the mycelium here is branched and septate. And the asexual spores are conidia, produced exogenously on special mycelium called conidiophores. Conidia on germination produce the mycelium. So the sexual spores are called ascospores. Example for this is Aspergillus, Claviceps and Neurospora. So when we talk about this Neurospora is used extensively in biochemical and genetic work. So many members like morels and buffels are edible and are considered delicacies. And here comes the Basidiomystes. The common forms are mushrooms, bracket fungi or puffballs, and they grow in soil, on logs and tree stumps, and in living plant bodies as parasites. So where does a mushroom grow? In some gritty oil, on wood logs and etc. right? And the example for that is rust and smut. So the mycelium here are branched and septate, and here also the mycelium are branched and septate, whereas here the mycelium is aseptate and cenocytic. So remember this. Yes, and the asexual spores are not found, whereas a vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation, and the sex organs are absent, but plasmogamy is brought about by fusion of two vegetative or somatic cells of different strains or genotypes. The resultant structure is dikaryotic, which gives rise to basidium. The karyogamy and meiosis takes place in basidium, producing 4 basidiospores, and the basidiospores are exogenously produced on basidium. Basidia are arranged in fruiting bodies called basidiocarps. So the common members of these basidiocytes are agaricus, that is nothing but mushroom, Ustilago, smut, and Puccinia, rust fungus. So here you can see the mucar, which is a Phycomycete, and this is Aspergillus, which is Ascomycete, and this is Agaricus, which is a Basidiomycete, that is nothing but the mushroom. And here comes the Deuteromystes. They are commonly known as imperfect fungi because the only vegetative phase of this fungi is known and not the sexual phase. And they reproduce only by asexual spores called conidia, and the mycelium here is septate and branched. So some are saprophytes or parasites, while large number of them are decomposers of litter and help in mineral cycling. So the example is Alternaria, Collatotrichum and Trichoderma. So here comes the major kingdom, the kingdom Plantae. So in this kingdom Plantae, it includes all eukaryotic chlorophyll containing organisms, that is plants. So basically plants have chlorophyll for green color and they are eukaryotic in nature. You all know that, right? So few are partially heterotrophic, such as insectivorous plants or parasites. So yes, you know, all plants, they prepare their own food through photosynthesis. But some plants, example like this, insectivorous and parasites. So what does the insectivorous plant mean? So that is nothing but a bladderwort and a Venus flytrap. So you know about Venus flytrap, right? It will present like a bottle shape, and when any insect goes into it, it will goes near it, it will grab the insect into the mouth and it will close the lid. So, and those are known as insectivorous plants. And the parasite is Cuscuta. Cuscuta is nothing but you can find in many plants where there will be some wirely coiled structure, thin wirely coiled structure present in some plants, that is nothing but the Cuscuta. And they have eukaryotic structure with chloroplast and cell wall made up of cellulose, and it has 2 phases of life cycle, whereas the first one is diploid sporophytic and the second one is haploid gametophytic. The lengths of these phases and whether they are free or dependent vary among different groups, and this variation is known as alternation of generation. Whereas this kingdom Plantae includes algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymnosperm and angiosperm. So here you will pronounce it like pteridophyte, P silent, pteridophyte. And these are included in this kingdom Plantae. And here comes the second one, the kingdom Animalia, the largest kingdom. And these are the heterotrophic eukaryotic organisms that are multicellular and lack cell wall. They digest their food in an internal cavity and store food reserves as glycogen or fat, like us, the fatty one, right? So the mode of nutrition is holozoic by ingestion of food as we eat. So the higher forms show elaborate sensory and neuromotor system, as we have the neuromotor system mechanism. So most of them are capable of locomotion. as we walk. So mostly animal is equal to a human being, where there we can say that a human being was extinct from an animal. So we'll definitely know that we came from a gorilla or a chimpanzee, right? And that's true. By seeing this you can tell that. So sexual reproduction is by copulation of male and female, followed by embryological development. And here comes the next one, the viruses. This virus, everyone will definitely go through any virus from in their entire lifetime. So as we have now this coronavirus, so like that we'll have some different types of viruses, and the most common one is this common cold flu virus, influenza virus, and we have different types of virus. So mostly because of this virus we are more prone to the common cold and flu in this rainy seasons and all. So these are non-cellular organisms and characterized by having an inert crystalline structure outside the living cell. So the virus is coined as venom or poisonous fluid by Pasteur. So DJ Ivanovsky, he found the tobacco mosaic virus disease of tobacco, and these were found to be smaller than the bacteria. Yes, let me show you that. This is a tobacco mosaic virus, and this pink structure is RNA structure present in it, and these are the capsids, many capsids that are attached to RNA. And here comes the M.W. Bejernik, and that the extract of infected plants of tobacco could cause infection in healthy plants, and called fluid as Contagium vivum fluidum. So when we cut off that extract of infected plants of tobacco, so when we take that infected plant near a healthy plant, so that will also get destructed through this fluid called Contagium vivum fluidum. He termed that, and the M.W. Stanley said that he showed that viruses could be crystallized, and crystals consist largely of proteins. They are inert outside the specific host cell. Viruses are obligate parasites, and the viruses also have genetic material that could either be RNA or DNA. So some viruses have single-stranded RNA, some viruses have double-stranded RNA, and some viruses might have double-stranded DNA too. So virus is a nucleoprotein and genetic material is infectious. So viruses that infect plants have single-stranded RNA. So as I said, viruses might have any type of RNA and DNA, but when it comes to a plant, it will only be a single-stranded RNA, whereas when it comes to an animal, it might be a single-stranded RNA or a double-stranded RNA or a double-stranded DNA. So we'll never have a single-stranded DNA. Just remember that. So the bacterial viruses or bacteriophages are usually double-stranded DNA. So here you will see this bacteriophage, and this is the head of a bacteriophage, and this is a collar or neck, and this is the sheath, and these are the tail fibers through which this bacteria enters into the cell. The bacteria enters into the cell through these tail fibers. And here comes a protein coat called capsid made of subunits called capsomeres, protects the nucleic acid. So see here, this RNA is a nucleic acid, and this capsid, as you can see, the protein coat, so called capsid, made of subunits called capsomeres. The small ones are capsomeres, and this combinedly termed as a capsid. These capsomeres are arranged in helical or polyhedral geometric form. So as you can see here, these RNA is in helical. Helical in the sense it is a helix shaped structure. Means it will present like this, coiled inside the coiled. Yes. And the viruses cause diseases like mumps, smallpox, herpes and influenza. AIDS also caused by virus. Yes, AIDS is also caused by a virus. So let me show you the helical structure. So see, this is a helical structure. The nucleic acid RNA is present in this helical structure. So I hope you understood. So yes, and these capsomeres are arranged in helical or polyhedral geometric forms. So see, wait, let me show you again. So see, for this RNA, let me attach you some capsomeres. These are some capsomeres. They are all of same length. They are attached, as you can see, right? Yes, they are attached like this. So I am not so accurate, so please. So yeah, you got it, right? So like this. So here, the viruses cause diseases like mumps, smallpox, herpes and influenza. AIDS also caused by the virus. In plants, symptoms can be mosaic formation, leaf rolling and curling, yellowing and vein clearing, dwarfing and stunted growth. So the leaf rolling, it's nothing but the leaf gets closed inside, and the curling is also the same, and the yellowing and vein clearing means you will have some veins on the leaf, right? So that part, the veins and the leaf color will get yellow, and the dwarfing is nothing but the small growth of the leaf, and the stunted growth is nothing but that. And here comes the viroid. The Theo Diner discovered this viroid. It was a new infectious agent which was smaller than a virus and caused potato spindle tuber disease. It is free RNA. It lacks a protein coat, and it is found in viruses so named viroid. And the RNA of viroid was of low molecular weight. And here comes the prion. The prion are some infectious agents which possess only proteins but not nucleic acids. So such agents are called as prions. They cause scrappy disease of sheep and mad cow disease in cow. So these are very important. Scrappy disease of sheep and mad cow disease in cow. So here comes the lichens. So these lichens are the symbiotic associations between algae and a fungi. These have two components, that is one of algal component, one is a fungal component. So this algal component is a phycobiont which is autotrophic, that is which can prepare its own food, whereas this fungal component is mycobiont which can't prepare its own food and depends on the algae. So here comes clarity. The algae prepare food for fungi. As I said, it is autotrophic. It will prepare its own food and it will keep for fungi also. So here comes the fungi which provide the shelter to the algae and absorb mineral nutrients and water for its partner. And its partner is nothing but the algae. So as I said before, these are the symbiotic associations between algae and fungi. So algae will prepare food for fungi and fungi will prepare shelter for the algae and water also. And these lichens are very good pollution indicators, and they do not grow in polluted areas. And in cities, like they are so polluted, right? So they will not grow in that. And so when you see a lichen, you can't differentiate that there are two components in it. Both will be present like single ones, and so that you can't differentiate between them. So I hope you understood everything. So thank you for watching with so patience, and please do like, share and subscribe our videos. And if you have any comments and queries, you can ask in the comment section. So please do like, and thank you for watching. So I hope you guys understood everything. So if you have any doubts and queries, please comment in the comment box. I'll reply to everyone and I'll share the PPT too. So thank you for watching, and please do subscribe and click the bell icon. Thank you.